Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the world of SAP Access Management. We're going to unpack the core concepts and best practices that really decide who gets to see and, more importantly, do what with your company's most critical information. So let's just start with a really big question. Who actually controls the most sensitive data in your company? You know, the answer isn't a person or a department. It's all about how you manage access. And if you get that wrong, well, the consequences can be pretty serious. At its very heart, the whole challenge sounds simple, right? It's just about giving the right access to the right person. No more, no less. But as you'll see, solving that simple problem is incredibly complex. And it's the entire reason SAP's authorization system even exists. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll tackle the big picture access control challenge. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty and look at the anatomy of an authorization. After that, we'll talk about choosing the right tools for the job, walk through the best practices for modeling these profiles, and finally, we'll reveal what I like to call the master key to the whole system, the transaction SU24. Okay, first up, the access control challenge. And I really want to be clear here. This is not just some tech problem that you can hand off to the IT department. Nope, this is a fundamental business security requirement. It is absolutely non-negotiable. You know, any good security concept is really a balancing act between three key things. First, obviously, you have to protect your sensitive data. That's a legal and regulatory must. Second, the solution has to make financial sense. The cost can't be more than the benefit. And third, and this is a big one, security can't get in the way of people actually doing their jobs. It's a delicate dance for sure. So how do you strike that balance? Well, you have to understand the fundamental building blocks. So let's pull back the curtain and really dissect the anatomy of an SAP authorization. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the role. The easiest way to think about a role is like a digital job description. It's a neat little package that contains all the transactions, all the reports, all the permissions a person needs to do their job. And inside that role package, you find transactions. A transaction is just a single specific task. Think create a purchase order or run a sales report. They're like the verbs of the SAP world. The individual actions that make the business go. Now, this next piece, this is where the magic of security really happens. It's the authorization object. When a user tries to run a transaction, this little guy acts like a security guard at a checkpoint asking, hey, are you really allowed to do this? It's what defines what a user can actually do. And if the authorization object is the security guard, then the authorization values are the specific instructions on the clipboard. This is the super granular level. It's the fine print that says, okay, you can display this data, but you can't modify it. Or you can do this, but only in company code 1000. These values draw the exact lines in the sand. Okay, so now we have our building blocks, the roles, transactions, objects, and values. Let's talk about how we actually put them together. SAP gives you different types of roles. And believe me, choosing the right tool for the job is absolutely critical. You've basically got three main tools in your toolbox. First is the simple role. It's just a standalone set of permissions perfect for a very specific task. Then you have a composite role, which is kind of like a keychain. It doesn't hold any permissions itself, it just holds a bunch of simple roles together to make up a complete job function. And finally, you have derived roles, which are basically copies of a master role that only change based on things like which department or company code someone works in. Now, derived roles sound amazing, right? You get super specific, granular control, but here's the catch. They can be a real headache to maintain. Because every time you need to change something in the main template, you have to remember to push that change down to every single one of the derived copies. It can turn into an administrative nightmare if you're not careful. So we have the building blocks and we have the tools. Now for the most important part of all, the blueprint. How do you actually build these profiles the right way? Let's get into the essential best practices. Any solid authorization concept is built on three pillars. First, segregation of duties, or SOD. That just means you don't let one person control an entire critical process, which helps prevent fraud. Second is the principle of least privilege. This is huge. It means you only give people the absolute bare minimum access they need to do their jobs and nothing more. And third, continuous maintenance. Access needs are always changing, so you have to keep reviewing and cleaning things up. And if you're building a new authorization concept from scratch, you can't just wing it. It has to be a structured project. It really follows these 5 phases, from getting prepared and drawing up the blueprint to the actual implementation, making those final tweaks, and then, of course, the big go-live and ongoing support. All right, I want to zoom in on one specific tool that the experts will tell you is the absolute master key to keeping your roles clean and secure over the long haul. And that is Transaction SU24. So, what is this magical SU24? Well, you can think of it as the master rulebook. It maintains the official link between a transaction, like creating a sales order, and all the authorization objects it's supposed to check. So when you add that transaction to a role, SU24 is what tells the system what default permissions it should probably have. And why should you care? Because maintaining SU24 properly is a total game changer. It makes your whole role-building process consistent, it makes it repeatable, and it massively increases the integrity of your security model. Most importantly, it helps you enforce that least privilege principle we talked about. Now, while SU24 is the master key, it's definitely part of a bigger toolkit. PFCG is where you'll actually build the roles. SUIM is your best friend when you need to audit who has access to what. SU01 is for managing individual users. And SU53 is the lifesaver you use to figure out why a user just got an access denied error. When you boil it all down, it comes back to this one simple truth. Getting authorization management right is absolutely essential. It's not just for security, it's for efficiency too. A great system doesn't just lock people out, it empowers them to do their jobs safely and smoothly. And that really brings us to our final question for you to think about in your own company. After hearing all this, take a hard look at your access model. Is it a fortress that protects your business while still letting it run? Or is it just an open door waiting for trouble to walk right in? Thanks for watching.